Yo, keyboard video. So I want to talk about the Neo75cu today, which is the newest keyboard from the Neo line of keyboards. Pretty similar to QWERTY Keys, Owl Labs. I'm not quite sure how all the companies are related. I think they're all the same company actually. But anyways, if you built a QK board before, like the 75 or the 65 or whatever, really similar. Now I've actually never built a Neo board before. This is my first Neo board that I put together. But in general, my impressions are pretty positive. It was a really good build experience. So a couple days, or I guess a couple weeks ago at this point, I went to Akihabara, on a little bit of a weekend jaunt. And then in the evening, I went out for dinner with some friends. And at dinner, I got past some keyboard stuff. I got past the kit, switches and caps, and that's basically what I put together today. So this isn't like a commission, like not technically, but I don't get to keep this board. I have to give it back to its owner, after this video. But first, let's go and take a look at what you get in the kit. So pretty similar to a lot of the other boards in this price class, you'll get a carrying case. And in a top pouch here, this will be where you get your plates. So in this kit in particular, we got the palm plate and the FR4 plate, and you also get a set of stabs. Now these are clip-in stabs, these aren't screw-in stabs. So in these pouches, you will get case feet, and then in this one, you'll get your gaskets, your gasket kit, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then in this pouch, just a bunch of extras. So if you lose a screw or you strip a screw or I don't know, whatever, just a bunch of extras in this pouch. Honestly, that's pretty nice to have. So let's look at the board itself, or I guess the case. So it comes in this pouch, which I've actually never seen before. I don't know if this is standard for Neo boards, but kind of a nice surprise. I don't know how often I'm going to use this pouch, if at all, but it's there. So this is the case that we got. This is the black color, I guess, with a brass bottom. Now I know the board is called the 75cu, meaning copper. The brass is an alloy of zinc and copper, so I guess it's still technically true. Regardless though, it's heavy. It's really heavy. Even not built, just the case itself is extremely heavy. So the build process is actually pretty similar to a lot of the other custom boards that I built recently. But if you've never built any kind of board before, here's how you do it. So the first thing you want to do is get your stabilizers ready. Now the stabilizers that come in the kit are not lubed. I don't think I've ever seen a kit with lube stabilizers, but that's perfectly fine. You technically do not need to lube your stabs, but I don't recommend that. Definitely do try to lube stabs. So at a bare minimum, you will need some kind of lubricant. Again, if you've never built a board before and you aren't sure how to put your stabs together, just remember the stem with the side that has two holes that faces the front. That's where the wire clips in. Just insert your stabilizers that way, and then the wire clips into the front, and you're good to go. And just repeat that for all the stabilizers you have. This is my first time using clip-in stabs, but to be honest, it actually wasn't that bad. I, in some ways, almost prefer it to screw-ins. So on the PCB, you're gonna find two holes where your stabs usually, go in. Of the bigger hole, that's where the stabilizer kind of hooks in. And then you just push it down through the smaller hole, so the peg will kind of pop through on the other side. In the bag where your stabilizers came in, you'll find what look like little plastic chips. You just want to go and you want to slot them in right to the bottom of the stabilizer, right where it clips on the other side, right in that little gap. So grab tweezers or just use your hands or whatever and just push it in until it pops in. And that is supposed to lock the stabilizer in place. Okay, so once that's done, if you're going to use any of the additional foam, you want to put that foam on top of your PCB, and then you want to put your plate of choice. So in this case, we're going to go with a palm plate. If you've never used palm before, it's a really flexible plastic. Like, it's really soft. Like, you can see just how flexible it is right here. It's really soft. Really different from using like an aluminum plate or something like that. So once your plate is on top, now we're gonna go and put our gaskets on. So in the bag, just grab your gaskets, and you'll notice there's like two little dimples on one side of this gasket. That side faces down. So basically just take your gasket and push it right onto the PCB with those two dimples facing downwards. And that's really all it is. That's all it takes to put your gaskets on. The 75cu technically has two different mounting options. You have the gasket mount, which is what we did here, and also something called the isolated bottom mount. That's a little bit different in the sense that you have to screw in your PCB assembly into the bottom case. This type of mounting option hasn't really been that popular in the last couple of years in the keyboard community, but if you want to experiment, or if that's just a sound that you prefer, you do have the option. So you will need to use some extra parts. They'll have these like I don't know, these metal rods, I guess. They're hollow in the middle, but they go through your gasket, and then you screw in your PCB through the gasket right to the bottom case. All right, with that done, now we're gonna open the case. So it comes with the top and bottom case already constructed, but you'll see here that the case is actually held together basically just by friction. So they're not screwed in together at all. It's just friction fit. So to separate the top and the bottom case, just, put the board down and then give the top a little bit of a tug, and they'll separate just like that. You'll see here that it also has the magnetic kind of pogo pin connector that we saw on like the QK75. So now you just want to go and just place your PCB assembly right into the bottom case, and that is it. The magnetic pogo pin connector basically just connects your PCB to the daughter board for the USB-C connection. No cables needed, no tiny like connectors, nothing. It's just that's it. It's really that simple. Now we just want to drop in your top case, and we're like almost done. At this point, you want to put in your caps. So we're using PBT Olivia. I really like this set a lot. It goes with so many boards. With all the keycaps in place, your board is completely done. And you'll notice that since we used the gasket mount, everything was toolless. We basically did not use any kind of screwdriver or anything like that. Basically just a completely toolless build. I honestly was a little shocked and kind of impressed that it was really that simple to put together. Okay, so first impressions, really, it's nice. It's got a nice premium feel. It is so heavy. It is so damn heavy, fully built. I don't have like a proper scale, so I couldn't properly weigh it, and it completely airs out my kitchen scale, but it's well over 2 kilograms. It's in the ballpark of like 5 pounds or something like that. It is so heavy, but it looks the part as well, especially this gold and brass color scheme. Kind of like a nice sophisticated vibe going on here, really, I don't know, adulting. So if you have a nice kind of dark desk setup, it'll match pretty well. Okay, so let's talk sound. The keyboard, I would say, has a deep but slightly poppy sound. Now, when I first tried it out, I thought it was similar to my QK75, which I would say is like a little more marbly, but after a little bit more time with it, I think the sound has like really grown on me. And yeah, I would definitely say that probably because of how heavy it is, like because of the brass bottom, it definitely contributes to a more deeper sound. And I think the palm plate might have something to do with that as well. For example, if you're going to use like a FR4 plate or something like that, you would get a little bit more of a higher pitch. But I think with the exact build, the exact materials that we have on this board, I don't know, I actually really like it. I don't have quite a similar board in regards to the initial like low sounding kind of thok, but then that pop on the return. There's no LCD screen on here or anything like that. There's no knob, there's no slider. So it's basically just a pretty simple keyboard. And sometimes that's really all you need. Like as I mentioned before, when I was building the QK75, I like wasn't sure what I was going to even use the screen for. And even now, I like never use that screen outside of checking for battery life, and that is it. Sometimes you just want a good looking board, and this is, what that board is. If you want to customize the layout of the keyboard, or you want to use macros or something like that, the keyboard uses VIA or QMK, which is pretty much the de facto standard for keyboard kits. Right now, as of this video, the keyboard is recognized in VIA, but you can't actually customize it because it's just not, like, it hasn't been updated. So you will need to grab the JSON file straight from QWERTY Keys' like Notion page, and then load that into VIA before you start customizing. So for me personally, I never use the function row. I mean, like if I ever use Alt F4 or something like that, I use it like infrequently enough that I don't mind having to use Alt FN and then 4. to get to the function row. So if I am using a 75%, I basically turn the function row into like a macro row using VIA. So I'll make a macro for stuff like screenshot or media control, or if I want to open a specific folder or even a website. You can do that all in VIA, and then you can just put that right into the function row if you're kind of like me and you don't use that row all that often. You could even technically use it for something like a text block. So there's some kind of text, for example, that you want to, for whatever reason, map to a single key. You can do that in VIA, and then if you're in Discord, you can just hit that one key and your text will show up. The Neo75cu starts at somewhere around like 200 USD, which it's not quite budget board, but it's still budgety enough, I think, that if you are looking for a really nice mechanical keyboard and you don't mind spending like a little extra, $200 I think is very fair for what you get in the kit and just the general build quality and how the board looks and feels. If you're just getting into the hobby though and you're not quite sure if you want to spend 200 USD on a keyboard, there are cheaper options for sure. I don't know, somewhere around 80 to 90 USD. The materials won't be the same. That being said though, if you don't mind spending basically double that for what you get from the Neo75, it's a pretty solid board for $200. It definitely looks and feels the part. Okay, so wrapping up, the keyboard is a pretty easy recommend for me, I think, especially if you are in the market for a custom keyboard kit somewhere around $200. It feels really good, and the fact that the build is completely toolless, if you're using the gasket mount at least, makes it just a really fun build. It's super simple. It doesn't take very long, and it's not that intimidating to beginners just because there is no tools and you get clip-in stabs included in the kit. But yeah, that is it. That's really all I wanted to share. So unfortunately, I don't get to keep this board. It's not mine. I have to give it back. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll see you again.